Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of A Gardener's Journey Homestead. Thank you for meeting me in my kitchen. Y'all know when we in the kitchen, we're about to make something good. We're about to make something good. In this video, I'm gonna show you how easy and simple it is to make homemade sourdough bagels. I know, you're thinking, who knew? Yes, so I am currently like on a break from work. I have about an hour and a half in between. So I thought I would go ahead and get this started and do some other things before I have to get back into my office and do some work, because I mean, ain't this what you doing on your break? Is making bagels. So we're gonna make bagels this morning. And so one of the things, I made this for the first time a couple of weeks ago. I was intimidated. It has been on my list for a long time. And I finally just broke down and did it. Why? One, because I wanted them. Number two, I wanted to prove I could do it. And number three, I'm about to have this sourdough class, and I can't be in the class talking about this stuff that I haven't tried, right? I've done a lot of sourdough stuff, but bagels was one of the things on my list that I had kind of deemed as intimidating. But I can tell you that it is super, super easy. And if I can do it, you can do it too. I want to tell you about the sourdough workshop that I'm having. You literally only have days left to get in the class. I'm going to actually push this video up so that you can see this before the workshop. The workshop is virtual online. That means anybody can come. It is Sunday, September the 29th from 2 to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you can't make it, no worries. You will get a full replay of the class. So in the workshop, I will be live in my kitchen. I will actually be talking through what sourdough is, the history of sourdough, why it's important, the benefits, how to create a starter, how to maintain a starter, what's the feeding schedule, how to bake with sourdough, like all your questions answered. It is literally sourdough baking 101. So if you are a beginner and you want to learn, this is the workshop for you. I will be there live for you to ask me questions. And not only that, you're going to get a digital guide that, if I have to say so myself, is pretty beautiful. I have spent a lot of time and energy putting together this sourdough guide that's going to have everything from FAQs to recipes to troubleshooting, telling you what's the stages of sourdough, how to know when it's ripe, when it's active, like you name it, it is going to be in the guide. I don't have a final count, but if I had to guess, it's at least 50 pages. By the time you see this video, I'll probably have a more accurate count. But if you were in my fall gardening workshop class, you know, when I say I'm gonna do something, I'm going to do it, and it's going to be done well. So if you wanna sign up for sourdough, if you're intimidated by sourdough, also I'm gonna give you a sourdough starter. So I will show you how to create a starter, but I'm going to send you my dehydrated starter so that you can start immediately. And if you don't wanna go through the process of creating your own starter, no worries. I'm gonna send you one in the mail, so that way you can get started with immediately. And yes, I'm going to teach you how to rehydrate it. We're going to do all the things. But let's get into these bagels. Y'all, bagels are only how many ingredients? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ingredients. And that's including the starter. Let me go grab one other thing and we're going to jump right into it. So I have my mixing bowl here. And so the first thing we need is bubbly active starter. And let me show you my starter. So you know you name your starter, right? So our starter is named manna. Obviously, from the scripture reference of manna in the Bible, how God provided them with manna so they would have food to eat. So I thought that would be very fitting. So if you take our class, you will get dehydrated manna sent to you. Now, if for some reason you do not need the class and you know how to do sourdough, but you need a sourdough starter, we do sell our sourdough starter and ship it. So you can go on our website, livingfoodsfarm.com, to order sourdough starter manna. So you can see that she is very active. You can see all the bubbles there. Look at that. She's active and ready to go. So we're going to start off with 150 grams of active bubbly starter. So I'm just going to pour this in my bowl. I have it on a digital scale. And we're going to stop when we get to 150 grams. Okay, that's 150 exactly. So we are right on the money. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is add 250 grams of warm water. So we're going to tear this out and add in, let me do it this way, add in our warm water. right perfect. Which again, the directions that said a cup plus 2 teaspoons, which is equal to 250 grams. So I was literally like right on it. So then we're gonna add 24 grams of sugar, which is the equivalent of 2 tablespoons. All right, right on it, perfect again. And then we're gonna add in 500 grams of bread flour and salt. Let me do my salt. I always try to do my salt early on because I'm always afraid that I'm going to forget it. And let me tell you, any bread without salt is not bread you wanna eat. Let me grab my salt. Because obviously I'm never gonna forget to add the flour, but I'm always concerned that I'm gonna forget the salt. So we're gonna add in 9 grams of salt. Let me tear this back out. Okay, perfect. That is 9 grams of salt. And then the very last ingredient is 500 grams of bread flour. So this is bread flour that didn't fit all in my container, so we're gonna use this first and see if we can get our bag close to empty. Y'all, that's it. That's all the ingredients. Starter, salt, water, sugar, bread flour. So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take this off the scale. You don't wanna ever mix with the stuff on your scale because it could, you know, damage your scale. It's okay, obviously, to have the bowl on there to weigh it, but we're just gonna mix this in. Mix this all together. You can mix it with a fork. You can mix it with a thing that I have here, because eventually you're gonna have to just get in here with your hands anyway. But I just mix it all together with some type of fork or spatula to get all the flour incorporated as much as possible. And then I just get in here with my hands to do the rest. It's going to be shaggy. It's going to be a rough dough at first, but as much as possible, I want to try to incorporate all of the flour as much as possible. It's going to be rough and stiff. Now, if you wanted to do this in your KitchenAid mixer, you can, but for me, I don't even want to get my KitchenAid dirty. Plus, I'm making some other stuff that I'm going to need the mixer for because I'm in the kitchen just baking up some stuff today. So I don't even want to use it. So I'm just doing it with my hands to fully incorporate the flour. Again, it's stiff because we have more flour than water, which is, again, by design. But you can see for the most part, all of it is incorporated. I got one last little piece there. Okay, so you can see that's what it looks like. It's like a rough, shaggy dough. I'm just gonna cover this with a damp towel. We're gonna let the first rise, or the first set, is 45 minutes to an hour. So I'm gonna check this back in 45 minutes to an hour, which will be perfect before I have to go back to my meetings. And then we'll check and see what it's looking like, do the next step, and then after that, it's just gonna do the bulk rise. So I'll check back with you in 45 minutes. Okay, guys, so 45 minutes has passed. So let's take a look at our dough. You can see it looks about the same. So all we're gonna do now is we're gonna work it into a ball. And so I'm gonna do what they call lifts and folds. I'm lifting the dough up and folding it over, and I'm just turning the bowl as I do it. Some people call it stretch and fold, some people call it lift and folds, but basically I'm just maneuvering the dough to get it into a ball. You're gonna do this for about 15 to 20 seconds, and you can feel it getting tighter. Just like that, now we have a ball. So now all we're gonna do is cover it again with our damp towel and let it do its bulk rise for 8 to 10 hours or until it's doubled in size. Now, a lot of this depends on the temperature in your house. If your house runs cool in the summertime or in the wintertime, it's gonna take longer to for it to bulk rise and for it to double in size. If your house runs warmer, then you can obviously, it's gonna take a shorter amount of time. What I typically do, if I'm concerned or I wanna make sure that it does it in the time that I need to, I will pop it on a heating mat, the same heating mat that I use for my seedlings. I will pop it on a heat mat to kind of help speed up the process, because I know that right now my house is kind of cool. Or you can put it in an oven that's not on, but with the light on, or you can put it on top of your refrigerator, somewhere that's gonna be close to a warmer source so that it can expedite the process. Right now, it's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So at 8 or 9 hours, it'll be tonight before it's ready because I start in the daytime. Normally, you might want to start this at night and then let it do its bulk rise while you're sleeping. And in the morning, you can make your bagels. That's probably typically the way you want to do it. I'm just doing it as I have time today in between meetings and also because I'm shooting video content. But you can use whatever schedule you want, but just know that after that initial 45 minutes, it's going to do a bulk rise for 8 to 10 hours. I'm going to cover it. If for some reason I don't feel like making them tonight, what I can do is I can pop the dough into the fridge. It'll slow down the fermentation process, and then I can still just shake my bagels in the morning. But we'll see how the day goes, and we'll see if I meet you back tonight or in the morning. But we're going to let it bulk rise for 8 to 10 hours, let it do its thing, and then we'll come back and shape the bagels and move on to the next step. Okay, guys, it is the next day. I did not have the energy to do the bagels because yesterday was a busy day. I was in the kitchen a lot. So I waited to this morning, and I want to show you what the dough looks like. So it did rise, as you can see. And what I did was I actually popped it in the fridge overnight. So when you do the popping in the fridge, that is like putting the pause button on your sourdough. So it's going to slow down the fermentation process so that it does not hopefully get overproofed. Now, hindsight, I probably should have waited later in the day, but again, I was doing many things. And ideally, I wouldn't have let it go this long, but you can still have it in the fridge for up to like 24 to 36 hours. I personally don't like it that way just because it does tend to be a bit more sour. And even though I love sourdough, I don't necessarily like the tanginess of sourdough. So I do my sourdough so where it doesn't have that strong sour taste just because I personally don't like it, but I love the health benefits of sourdough. So there are tips and tricks that you can use to make your sourdough more or less sour. And I'll be talking about that in the workshop if you're interested. So we have our dough here. It's beautiful. And so what I have is I have my pastry mat here. And then I also have just a cookie sheet with parchment paper. So the first thing we're going to do is just take our dough out. And one of the other things is that when I woke up this morning, I took it out of the fridge to kind of let it get to room temperature. So it's been sitting out for about, I would say, 2 hours. It's still cool, but it's not nearly as cold as it was. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be room temperature. And I'm just going to make this into a rectangle as much as possible. Because the dough is cool, obviously. Let's do that there. It's not as pliable as if it was, you know, all the way room temperature. But basically, we're just gonna make it into a rectangle. I have the rolling pin now because I was doing some other baking yesterday that I still need to finish. So it's not for this, but if I had to use it, I could. But basically, you can just do it with your hands. Then we're gonna take a bench scraper and we're gonna divide this into 8 sections for our bagels. So 8 sections. Then from here, you're gonna bring the 2 ends together, kind of like this, flip it over, and then we're just gonna make it into a ball. Just like that. And we're gonna put it on our cookie sheet. So I'll show you another one. You're just gonna bring the ends together like that, flip it over, and then make a ball. And it's not relatively, like you see, it's not sticking to my hands. It's just not as soft as if it would have flour on it. But let's just make it into a ball as much as you can. So I'm gonna keep doing this and line up the parchment paper. Okay, so I ended up getting 10. I went back and redivided a couple to make 10 because it just seems like it was so much bigger than everything else. So relatively, you want them to all kind of be the same size. And if you want to be real particular, you could weigh it to make sure it's the same amount of grams. This is just for the family. We're not that particular. And again, I don't feel like my balls are perfect, but that's okay because they weren't perfect the last time and those bagels tasted good. So again, one of the things with sourdough and with baking, I know from experience it can be so intimidating. But I promise you, if you just get in the kitchen and keep trying, you'll be able to perfect and get better each and every time. And a lot of the small details that you think are just so overwhelming actually don't affect the quality of your product, right? Especially if you're not trying to cook and win, you know, America's Top Chef. If it's just for your family, just get in the kitchen and bake. So we're gonna let this rest for 10 to 15 minutes so that the gluten can relax, and then I'll meet you back here for the next step. Okay, we're back. It's been 15 minutes, and so that allowed the gluten to relax. So now we're gonna move on to our next step, which is this. This is how we're gonna form the holes in the bagel. So we're gonna take one bagel at a time. We're just gonna poke a hole in the middle, just like that. And then I'm gonna lift it. You're gonna poke it all the way through, like that. And then I'm gonna take both of my index fingers and kind of just barrel roll it to where it opens up about the size of a walnut. Now, when I put it back down, it's gonna shrink a little bit, but that's okay. I kind of messed up my shape a little bit. So if it shrinks, that's okay. Let's try another one. So just stick your finger straight through, like that. And then I just take my index fingers and kind of roll it to make the hole. And then I'm just gonna lay it back down. So I'm just gonna keep doing this and I'll show you the final look. Okay, here's what it looks like. The shape is not necessarily 100% perfect, but you can tell those are bagels, can't you? Okay, so now we're gonna cover it with a damp towel for 15 to 20 minutes. And we'll be moving on to the final step. So I'll meet you back here in 15 minutes. This is just gonna, again, let them rest. You'll see them puff up slightly by the time I come back. And I'm gonna move on and get ready for the next step. After the 15 to 20 minutes, we're actually going to boil them. That's the next step. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that ready and I'll meet you back over at the stove when it's time to do that step. Okay guys, I'm back, I'm at the stove. So while the dough was resting for that last 15 to 20 minutes, what I did was I brought a pot of water to a boil and I added a tablespoon of honey. What the honey does is gonna give it a slightly sweet taste, very slight, and then it's also gonna help it to brown when we put it in the oven. So that's the purpose of the honey. We're going to boil the bagels, and the reason why you boil the bagels is to provide a thin crust, and also that's what gives it the chewy texture. So we're gonna boil for a minute or so, and then we put them in the oven and bake. Also, what I did was I got my toppings ready. I'm telling y'all this because once we start with the boiling, it's gonna be ba-da-da-da-da-da. So let me show you my toppings. So I'm doing everything bagel seasoning. So this is just from Trader Joe's or whatever brand that you want to get. That's everything bagel seasoning. And then also I have a cinnamon crunch sugar. If you have a Panera bread near you, have you ever had their cinnamon crunch bagels? So good. So we are kind of doing our own version of that. So this is the cinnamon sugar mixture. It's brown sugar, cane sugar, bread flour, butter, and cinnamon, all mixed together. And so that's what we're gonna dip our bagels in. Last time I did this, I did a mixture of everything. I did a plain, and then I did a cinnamon crunch, but I didn't do this level of cinnamon crunch. I did like a cinnamon sugar. It was more like cinnamon sugar. But now we're gonna see if we can get the actual cinnamon crunch. Yeah, that's what we're doing. So I got those seasons together. I got the water ready. So we are ready to go. Now, I could have used a bigger pot because you can do 2 to 3 bagels at a time, but this was already a pot that I had readily available. My kitchen is a wreck because, y'all, I'm in here doing a lot of stuff at the same time. But you can see there are bagels just slightly puffed up, so slightly. We're going to get a slotted spoon and we're gonna drop it in the water. You wanna wait till they float to the top, and they will immediately. And then once you do that, then you're gonna let it cook for about a minute on each side, 60 seconds, and then you're gonna flip it over. After you do that, you're gonna put it back on the pan where we have our parchment paper. Let it cool just a little bit, but while it's cool and still wet, that's when we're gonna dip it into our toppings. So let's go ahead and flip this over. You can see that there. I apologize, not a minute on each side, 30 seconds on each side. So it is ready. So let me get my pan. Getting my pan, so that way it's right here in close proximity. And we're just going to put it back on the parchment paper, round it side up. That's it right there. And then we're gonna just do the next one. So you can see it floats to the top. We'll give it 30 minutes on each side. And again, if you had a bigger pot, you could do more than one at a time. And really, I have room to do more than one in this pot. I'll let this one finish so I can do them both at the same time. Round it side up. And then let me show you the toppings before I put another one in there. So for the toppings, again, I'm gonna do this one. Let me get some tongs. It's warm, but it's not super, super hot. But that'll help me do it better. So we're gonna coat it with this. Okay, guys, cinnamon crunch, everything. I ended up putting them into two different pans because I didn't want my cinnamon touching the everything bagel and it all being confused. So we're gonna put this in the oven for 20 minutes and then I cannot wait to show you how good they look when they come out. And then we're gonna put some good old cream cheese on them and we're gonna take a bite. So 15, 20 minutes in the oven they go. Okay, guys, they are out of the oven. Here is what they look like. I think they look great. So what I would do differently the next time is I would only just coat one side. I did that the first time and I remember now why I did that. One, when you buy a bagel, it's usually coated on one side. And number two, what happens is it'll tend to burn. Like the cinnamon crunch burn just a little bit. It's still edible, but that's the reason why you only do one side. So just do that when you do yours. Just do one side. But look, let's taste test and see what we have. So I'm just gonna use a serrated knife. Let's see if I can get you closer. I got a plate, so we will try the cinnamon one so you can see what it looked like on the bottom. But I'm okay with it because it's just caramelized sugar. They're still kind of warm. I let them cool. They've probably been cooling about 5 minutes. So they're still warm. But you can see done on the inside. It's very light. Let's get a knife. I have some vegan cream cheese. You can use whatever cream cheese you like. This stuff is good. Tastes just like real cream cheese. And we're gonna put some on there. Obviously, you can just use some butter too if you wanted to. What y'all put on y'all bagels? Jelly, butter, peanut butter? Get it on there. Okay. Y'all, this is so good. If you want to store these, put them in a bag, 2 to 3 days. Then, trust me, they will be gone in 3 days. If I wanted to store them in the freezer, I would have to make a double batch, which you can do. I don't know which one I like better, the cinnamon crunch or everything bagel. The cinnamon crunch to me, like you could almost eat that as a dessert because it's kind of sweet. I wouldn't make it into a breakfast sandwich. I wouldn't. I would just do it with cream cheese and do it with my breakfast. The everything bagel, you can make that into a breakfast sandwich. You could do avocado on top of it and tomato. That would be so good. There's so many possibilities. And then again, if you wanted to do a double batch or if you are single, live by yourself, you can put these in the freezer and store them and then just pull out one when you need it. But y'all, so easy, and we saw the ingredients. It's so simple. Go, if you got bagels right now in your house, no judgment that you bought from the store, but go look at those ingredients. Look at the long list of ingredients for bagels, and then go back and see what we put in these bagels. Flour, salt, water. Was it some sugar? It was only like 5 things. And all 5 things we can pronounce and we know what they are. It was very simple, y'all. So you could do this, start it at night and then bake them for in the morning. That's probably the ideal way if you want to do it. Or like me, you just do it whenever you can fit it into your schedule because you still got bagels, right? Y'all, thank you so much for joining me in the kitchen. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that this has inspired you. If you have not signed up for the sourdough workshop, go ahead and register right now. The link is in my bio, livingfoodsfarm.com. Go to the events page, sign up. It is this Sunday from 2 to 4 p.m. Central. I want to see you in there. I want you to try these bagels. If you try them, let me know. It's a perfect weekend upcoming to try them and have them for your family. Remember, gardening is a journey. Let's grow together. I'll see you next time, friend.